So I have over 42, that's right, 42 single eyeshadows to swatch for you guys from the brand new Oden's Eye Cosmetics Jewel Shine collection. They were so kind enough to send me every single one of their shades, which I went ahead and I put in here for you guys. I also swatched these for you guys. I even show you guys how I did this eye look with the new Jewel Shine collection right here. So if you guys want to see what this collection is all about, well then definitely keep watching. Okay, so last year, Oden's Eye Cosmetics launched their first ever single eyeshadow collection. And I never really had a chance to review it, but I did create my own. I have 3 palettes that I created because I don't remember how many shades there were in that one, but I did create my own. Here's one little palette right here that I created. I also created this little green one right here. I like to have like, I guess, a certain aesthetic. If I'm gonna like do this, I like to have my shadows somewhat in order or like same colors next to each other. I don't know. I'm just kind of like anal when it comes to that. But I never had a chance to like actually review this collection last year. And I think the reason being, and I'm not going to lie, it's a lot. It is a lot. So here's what I created last year. It's a lot to swatch every single shade and try to create eye looks from every single shade. Here's the rest from that collection that I put right in here. I will say these are beautiful. I loved playing with these shadows last year. I just never had a chance to feature them. So when they sent me over the brand new collection, I was like, all right, I'm going to do a video. Not gonna lie, it took me forever to unbox them because there are 42 little shadows that come in this. They come in this little tiny box. They're wrapped in like this freaking tight cellophane. They need to pull them out of their plastic. It's a lot to unbox every single one of them. It's kind of overwhelming. It's not kind of overwhelming. It's very overwhelming. But I wanted to create something fun for you guys today. So this is going to be, I guess, my first ever like swatch party of me swatching every single shade. So I'm going to show you guys close-ups. I'm going to show you guys with a flash on, without a flash on, and next to a mirror so you guys can see some of the multi-chromes that are in here. So I will have all the information about this collection down below, but you guys can use my code AllieD, which will save you guys 10% off of anything from Oden Eye Cosmetics. It'll be launching on May 2nd. There are various times which I'll post right here, and the price ranges do vary. So according to the website, 18 of the multichrome shadows are going to retail for $14.90 each. There are 12 single shimmer eyeshadows that retail for $6.90 each, and there are also going to be 12 single matte eyeshadows that retail for $5.90 each. So it's definitely a nice variety of price points. The multichromes are definitely more expensive, but as you guys can see in the eyes, they're just a little bit more difficult to produce. It costs a lot to make, so that's why the prices are a little bit more steeper, but they are absolutely gorgeous and they're very fun and very easy to work with. So with that said, we're going to dive right on in. So I'm going to start with this little bad boy right here. I absolutely love this packaging right here. I think it's really beautiful. I really don't know how much these are going to cost. I believe these are going to be sold separately. I'm not really sure on the price point. If I find the price point, I'll link it down below in the description for you guys. But I love the palette right here. It fits every single one of the shades because last year when we got sent the collection, they only sent us 2 of these and it wasn't enough for all my single shadows. So I did take my Laura Lee Los Angeles empty one and I ended up putting them in here. So I still have all my shadows together. But I love this little component that it came in. I think it's so beautiful and it has a really nice front design with a big size mirror. I mean, there's a big size mirror, but this is my eyeshadow palette right here. Now I tried to be, I guess, as organized as possible. I try to put all the shades that are somewhat alike together. So I did put like all like the shimmer shades up top. Then we do have some more of our multi-chromes down here. I kind of go in from lightest to like darkest. In my opinion, that's what I was kind of going for, was like light to dark as best as I could. I did have 2 broken shades. This shade right here and this shade right here did come in shattered, but I was able to kind of press it back together. So if you see anything fall from it, that's just because they did come in broken. But I try to keep my shadows as close together as I could. So here is another close-up if you guys want to see. I try to keep them somewhat in line of the color scheme right here. So we're going to kind of go over every single shade. So up first, I do have this shade called Scarlet. Now this shade called Scarlet is really, really beautiful. It's like a multi-chrome right here where it's going to reflect between white and purple. Very pretty. I do notice that when I swatch this, it definitely flakes. I notice that when it comes to Oden's multi-chromes, they definitely flake. They have some flakiness to it. I dealt with it when I put on my eyeshadow look, and when I did my swatches, there's definitely some flaking in this, but it's bound to happen. But this is the shade called Scarlet. I think it's beautiful. Next up, I do have the shade called Zoe. Now Zoe is going to be a shimmer shade right here. There's no flakiness to it, but it does look like it's a multi-chrome because it does go a little bit between a gold to a pink orange. Very pretty yet again, but this one doesn't have any flakiness to it. So that's why I kind of consider more of it like a shimmer versus a multichrome, but it does have multichrome properties, which is kind of interesting because like it's not the same flaky formula as the other one, but it is a multichrome. But here is the shade called Zoe. Then we do have the shade called Angelica, which is actually what I'm wearing on my inner corner today. I'll show you guys how I did the eye look at the very end, but this is the shade called Angelica. And this is what I'm wearing on my eyes right here. Now, I love this shade. It's kind of hard to tell on camera. That's why I also have a close-up for you guys. Now, this actually kind of switches between a green, blue, and teal, and orange are like the kind of effects that I see when I look at this. It's kind of hard to tell like when you're looking on camera, but that's when you put a mirror next to it, you can kind of see where it does shift. I do think this is a really beautiful shade. I really love these type of shades, so it's why I have this on my inner corner today. Although I feel like on the inner corner it's pulling more orange because it's what it's laying next to. I kind of feel like this is one of those shades to kind of take on the shades it laid next to, but I think it's really, really, really beautiful. Up next, I do have this shade called Luna. His daughter's name is Luna, and she is so precious, and here is the shade called Luna right here. Now this actually switches more between a green, purple, pink shade right here. So right on camera right here, it kind of looks more green, but in person you can definitely see where it does switch between a green to like a purple pink. I think it's a very beautiful color, really fun to play with, and you can even see when you look in the pan that it is one of those shades that are just so pretty. Up next, I do have the shade called Freya. Now this shade right here, I definitely had some issues with. I don't know with how it's pressed, but this shade right here is really pretty. As you guys can see, it almost has like a wet like formula. This was super wet, and this goes between a white icy, it goes between like a white and then like an icy blue and purple. It's very beautiful, but in the pan, I'm gonna try to zoom you guys in so you guys can see. Do you guys see how like there's like a finger indent? This moves. Whenever I touch it, the formula like moves. Like I could almost, look at that. I can move it and you could already see pan. Do you guys see that? You could already see pan for like how wet this formula is. It is just wet, and I could just move the shades around and I could hit pan, which I kind of don't like. I don't like when it's that feeling, because then it feels almost as if I'm playing with Play-Doh. It feels like I'm playing with Play-Doh is how this feels, and it wants to shift. And I feel like this particular shade, is going to crack and break on me. I feel like this is going to break on me in a matter of time for how wet this one feels. And there's a few of them in here that feel like that. I don't know if it's the way it's pressed. I don't know if it's the way it's formulated, but there are some shades that definitely have a very wet Play-Doh like feeling, where with the second you put your finger in there, you can like move it around and touch pan. I don't like that. But I don't know. I don't like that. I don't know what causes it, but I wanted to let you guys know. And then lastly, for the top row, we do have the shade Alara. This is gorgeous. Now this is one of those shades again that I love. It goes between a blue, orange to yellow. It's so bright. It's so vibrant. It's so freaking beautiful. I love shades like that. There's something like about this where it goes between like a white, green, blue, orange that I get super obsessed with. And you can also see how high shine this is. This is like a foil shade. It is stunning. It is stunning. Now when you deal with foils, I will say you will deal with some flakiness. It's just how it is. But they're so worth it. They're so pretty. You don't need glitter glue. You can put down glitter glue. I tend to not put down glitter glue because whenever I put on glitter glue and put a foil on top of it, I do notice that I have some cracking, but then I also have some lifting. If you guys did not see a long time ago, I did a Danessa Myricks video where I swatched all of like the chrome flakes it had there, and they would just peel right off when I had glitter glue down. So that's why I'm not the biggest fan of using glitter glue with foils, but I will say I get what people do. I just prefer not to. But here is a shade called Alara. Moving on to the second row, we have the first shade called Lily right here. This is a beautiful like Aura Borealis shade. It goes between like a green, purple, yellow, blue. Right here it looks purple, but in person looks green. It's very beautiful. It's very high shine. It doesn't have that foil effect. It's just definitely more of a multichrome shimmer. I think it's really, really beautiful. I really liked swatching this one. It was really captivating to me. Up next, I have the shade called Daisy. Now this is another one of those foil shades where, again, I will show you a little bit up close, where it is definitely wet feeling. It's definitely wet feeling. I could tell that whenever I put my finger in it, it just shifts and moves. And again, as much as I think it's beautiful in the eyes, it just is a little like, don't move on me, because I don't want it to break. I don't want to move it. And it's like moving on me. So that's one of the things I'm just kind of like, but like, they're so pretty though. Don't move. But here we have the shade called Daisy. This is beautiful. This is like a teal green with a teal blue with green and orange in it. Absolutely beautiful. Up next, I have the shade called Soul. This is a beautiful, beautiful orange shimmer. This is just so captivating. I love the shade. I feel like this is going to be a go-to shade for me during the summer season because it's just so freaking beautiful. I love the way that this looks. I love the way that it just shifts. It's a beautiful, beautiful, just orange shade, perfect in time for summer. You guys know that during the summer season, I love wearing like a lot of orangey, bronzy tones because I just love being in like in the mood for summer. Like I am wearing an orange blush today. I'm actually wearing the Oden Eyes blush. It's called Peach Gleam. This is just so pretty for the summer season. Oh, it's so pretty. But that is what I'm wearing for my blush today. I'll have everything on my face linked down below. But this shade right here just really gets me super excited. Next, we have the shade called Mason right here. Now, this is actually what I'm wearing on my eyes right now, right next to that shade called Angelica. I'm wearing the shade right here called Mason. Now, this is another one of those foil shades. If you guys can't already tell, just by looking at it, it definitely does flake. It has like big flakes in here, but it's a beautiful foil shade. I love the way this looks. It's a great multi-chrome as well. I tried to captivate it as much as I could on camera, like next to mirror, so you guys can see that shift. You see how beautiful that is? That to me is just so beautiful. Look at that shift. Absolutely beautiful shade. Very creamy, very buttery. This just goes between like a purple, pink, blue, green, orange. Like this is like so captivating, so high shine, and I love the way it looks on the eye. I will say, even though it definitely has some like flakiness to it, and it definitely has like some big flakes that did pop off, it's very easy to work with, very easy to blend, had no issues. Up next, I have the shade called Matthews. Now this is a beautiful, beautiful shade. Now this goes between like a purple, brown, almost like a rainbow effect, the way this looks. It's like brown, purple, green. It's so multi-dimensional. I think this is stunning, and I think it's gonna be great like summer shade. I feel like you don't really need to do too much with this because it's going to perform all on its own. So you won't need to do too much, but I think it's really beautiful. Loved swatching this. Was very kind of blown away by how pigmented this shade actually is. And lastly, for this row, we have the shade called Carter. I love the shade called Carter. Now this is one I typically gravitate to a lot because it's just between a blue to a green to a yellow. Very gorgeous shade. This is one of those shades that I always end up doing eye looks with because I'm just so captivated by how pretty this shade is. It's like when I go to foil shades. I think it's just so pretty. I'm going to show you guys again how you guys can see that shift. I mean, do you see that green blue shift right there? So pretty. So pretty. Love, 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 love this shade right here. It's kind of hard with like my mirror, but love this shade. So freaking nice. Love it, love it, love it. Moving on to the third row, the first shade we have is a shade called Schiff, I think I'm saying that right. Now this shade actually did come in shattered, but I was able to fix this. Now this is a very light icy blue lavender shade, very pretty. As you guys can see with the swatch, it just has a nice beautiful high shine to this. I think this will make a great eye topper, a great inner corner moment. I think this is such a gorgeous shade. Love the way this looked. It had no flakes in it, which was really nice, but overall very beautiful shade. Up next I have the shade called V. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but VE. I don't really know how else to pronounce it, but it's like a beautiful like silver shade. It's got just like a feel of it. I think it definitely has some blue in it, but it just definitely looks more silver to me. I think it's a really gorgeous shade. Loved swatching this one. Was very like blown away by how pigmented this actually was. Super, super, super pretty. I don't know if I'm doing this right. I know a lot of people out there do swatch parties and like swatch and sips and stuff like that. I've never done that, so I don't know if I'm doing this right. I'm trying. Okay, so up next we have another foil shade. Now this shade called Jade is just unbelievably stunning. However, this shade is so wet feeling. It is so wet. It's so creamy and feels like almost like soft temperatured butter for how beautiful this is. But as you guys can see right here, see that big old flake I was telling you guys about? It's like kind of flaky. Very pretty. But oh my gosh, does this move around in the pan? Like I can barely touch it and it's already shifting around, so I don't like that. But is this shade not unbelievably gorgeous? I mean, just look at that right there. So pretty. Love the way this looks, but I just hate how soft it is in the pan because I feel like this is one of those shades that's going to break rather easily on me or crumble. And I have to keep kind of patting it down to get it to not move so much because it is just shifting like crazy. Up next, I have this beautiful teal shade called Logan. A very, very beautiful shade. This is like one of those perfect like summer shades. So right here kind of looks like purple, right here kind of looks like pink, but in reality it's a beautiful blue. Do you guys see that blue? Look at how beautiful that is. Super freaking pretty. Love the way this looks. I feel like this is gonna be like perfect like ocean blue shade. That's gonna be fun to play during the summer, but then also has a pink silver shift to it as well. Very, very gorgeous. Love, I love, love this type of shade. Very fun to work with. Up next, I have the shade called Wyatt. Now this color really surprised me because this truly just shifts between a purple to a teal. Very pretty, very, very shifty. It like looks just unbelievably beautiful on the skin. I'm sure this will make a beautiful eyeshadow. Really love the way the shade that called Wyatt looks. Love the way it's swatched. I was thoroughly impressed with just how beautiful and captivating this is. Like look right there, you can see blue and purple. So pretty. Oh my god, it's so pretty. I love the shade. I really want to play with it just because it is that perfect blue ice, that perfect like icy blue purple shift. It's like, it just reminds me of like winter, like a frost winter moment. Very gorgeous. And lastly, for this row, we have the shade called Aiden. Now I feel like Aiden's going to be a very popular shade because this is that typical bright, like bright green to teal, this is that typical bright green to like dark blue shift. So you guys can see that bright green right here, but it definitely does switch to dark blue. I mean, just look at that right there. It definitely switched to like that dark blue. There it is. There's that shift. This is going to be a very, very popular shade because I noticed that when it comes to other, you know, multi-chromes and dual chromes that has this beautiful shift, this shade tends to sell out just because everybody loves that green blue shift, myself included. I think it's a very, very beautiful shift. I love when it shifts like that. Just so freaking pretty. So this is the shade called Aiden, and I really think this is going to be a big seller for them. Okay, so moving on to the next row, we have the shade called Niels. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I personally think that this is an ugly shade. I'm so sorry. I'm not a fan of this shade. It just looks like a very light green with like a little bit of pink in it, but it just, I don't know. I wouldn't know how I'd be able to make this work. It seems like a little bit too lackluster, almost a little bit hard pan for me when I swatched it. Maybe that's why I'm not getting the true form of pigment that I want, but I'm just definitely not the biggest fan of this shade, but it does lay down nicely at least, and it doesn't have that flakiness, but not a big fan of the shade. Up next, I have the shade called Saga. Now this is just a really beautiful icy lavender shade. I think this is really, really, really beautiful. I think this will complement any sort of like purple pink eye look that you do. Very easy to work with, very nice to swatch. Really, really pretty like icy lavender shade. So that is going to be the shade called Saga. Up next, I have the shade called Albin. It's going to look like this. Now this is a really gorgeous shade. This is like a light icy pale pink, pale yellow. It's like kind of like a mix between the two. It's a really, really pretty shade. I really did enjoy swatching this. It is one of those flaky ones again though. It's a little soft, so it pushes just a little bit, but it's a really pretty shade. Up next, I have the shade called Modi. I think that's what it's called. Now this is going to be like a baby pink, a very soft baby pink. This is one of those ones again that kind of really soft, so I can kind of move around, touch the pan. It definitely has some flakiness to it, but it is one of their foil shades. I will say this is absolutely gorgeous. I feel like this would be really pretty to wear all by itself. Love the way this looks. When I swatched it, didn't have any sort of flakiness to it, but it is just so easy to lay down. Doesn't even need any sort of glitter glue. Really pretty shade. Up next, I have this gorgeous shade called Grace. Now this is again one of those shades that remind me of like the Aurora Borealis because it goes between a green to an orange to like a pink. Very, very, very pretty. Do you guys see that right there? Super pretty shade. Loved swatching this. Doesn't feel like a foil, just feels like a really just normal shimmer to me. Very, very, very pretty. Loved playing with this one right here. Definitely want to create an eye look using this. And then lastly for this row, we have the shade called Oscar. Now this one's kind of mixing a little bit with the shade below because it is kind of shifting. But here's the shade called Oscar. I had to put it right here. Even though I swatched my arm, I had to put it right here because my back of my hand is actually getting really, really raw. But this is just one of those really pretty like peachy shades. That's just the vibe I get. This is just a really, really pretty peachy shade. Looks like it could be a really fun summer shade to play with, but this is the shade called Oscar. Up next, I do have the shade called Theo right here. This is a beautiful like orange, like a burnt orange to a green red shift. Very, very, very pretty. Really think I can create a really pretty look using this right here. Do you guys see how pretty that is? Like just look, that is so gorgeous. So I feel like this is going to be another hit for them. So this is the shade called Theo. Then we have a shade called Loki. Now this is going to be like a red with like a rainbow reflect to it. It is just so freaking pretty. I wouldn't even know how to necessarily like to classify this shade right here. Do you guys see that shift? It is just so freaking pretty. I wouldn't even know what to classify this as other than it's just a really gorgeous like red with like rainbow reflex in it. But this is the shade called Loki. Up next, I don't know how to say this necessarily, but I don't really know how to say this, but this is a beautiful like icy lavender with gold, and it's like mixed between lavender and gold. It is so freaking beautiful. I just want to play with this shade by itself for how gorgeous this shade is. But let me see if I can do another little like close up. If you guys can see that shift between like a gold purple. Ah, so pretty. Up next, I have a shade called Nana. Not sure if I'm saying that right, but Nana. This is just a really beautiful purple shimmer. Very beautiful. Almost has that wet like formula into it, but just a very beautiful purple shade. I feel like that's going to really complement the Oden shade right next to it. Very, very pretty. Then we have this dark purple right here. This is going to be the shade called Oden. Now this switches between like a blue to a gray to a purple. Very, very, very pretty color. Do you guys see that? Like, look at how pretty that is. So pretty. But this is the shade called Oden. Very, very easy to swatch. Very pretty in the eyes. Definitely want to play with this one. Then lastly, for this, we have this shade that definitely came in shatter, but I was able to press it back together. This is the shade called Braggy. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm so sorry if I'm not. This is like a deep purple, but it also switches to like a gold, like a deep gold. Purple to deep gold. Very, very pretty shade. Very gorgeous. How well it's coming off on camera, but this is a gorgeous, 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 gorgeous shade. Definitely some fallout with this one. For all of the multi-chromes and the shimmers that are in here, these are going to be magnetic, so you guys can kind of place them wherever you guys want to. But I want to let you guys know that once you place them in here and it's completely full, it's not the easiest to take out. So in order for me to switch things around, I have to take a pair of like tweezers and really kind of squeeze it together and put it right between one of these shades, or like right here, like right between like little corner, try to pick it out. But a lot of times my little thing flips and it digs, my little thing like moves and end up digging into the shadow. So just so you know, these are magnetic. You guys can move them around how you guys see fit, but they're not the easiest to take out when they're completely full, just because there are so kind of like tightly in there. And so you might end up messing up your shade just a little bit, but once you get it out, once you at least get one shade out, the rest are easy to follow. But initially, it's not the easiest. But this is my palette right here. I love the way my palette looks. I cannot wait to keep playing with this. I will say, even though some of these are foils, some of these are really wet like Play-Doh, they are absolutely gorgeous. And I could tell these are going to be so much fun to play with. So then lastly, we do have the matte palette. So this is going to be my matte palette right here. I try to go in like order of like color, so I try to go from like lightest to deepest as best as I could. So I'm gonna kind of go over all of these. So up first, we do have the shade called Vigo right here. This is gonna be like a pale white blue. It's like a pale white blue. This would be the color that I describe it, like being like a pale white blue. I feel like this would be great as a transition shade. Then we have the shade called Casper. This is gonna be a really beautiful light blendable lavender shade. Very pretty. Very, very easy to blend, but again, this is one of those shades I think would be great for transition, not necessarily wear by itself, but to be wearing as a transition shade. Next, I have the shade called William. There's like this really light, like baby pink matte, just a really nice baby pink matte. Definitely more on the pastel sides, and anytime you wear a pastel shade, you definitely should lay down a color base underneath it to really help to enhance the color, but it's a really pretty like baby pink shade. Then I have the shade called Agnes. This is just gonna make a pale orange. It's a beautiful pale orange. Again, a great transition shade. Not one to really wear by itself, but a great transition shade. Then we have this bright red shade. This is called like Leanna, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but it's a beautiful bright red, swatched really nicely, and I was really impressed by how easy it was to swatch. I will say there's probably going to be a little bit of staining with this shade, but I do think it's a really beautiful shade. Then we have this really beautiful lavender shade called Joseph. Very gorgeous. I really want to play with this with some of those like pressed glitters, some of those foils we have in there. I think some of those like purple foils would be so beautiful with the shade called Joseph. Then we have a deeper purple called Hella right here. Very, very beautiful, very soft. These mattes are incredibly soft, and I can tell you they're also really, really easy to blend out with. This is the shade called Hella. Then we do have this bright turquoise blue. This is so pretty. This is so pretty. I actually almost wore this today with some of the blue shades that we had in the palette. I ended up not, but I will say this is super pretty. I did take the pleasure of blending it out already on my arm, and it blended out very beautifully, so I definitely want to play with this shade. Next, we have the shade called Elsa. This is a beautiful deep blue. It's going to really complement that Anton shade very nicely. Very fitting for Elsa to be blue too. Very pretty color. Next, I have the shade called Ebba. It's this beautiful like hunter green. It's like a beautiful like evergreen. It's a very beautiful green shade. You guys know I love a good green moment, so I definitely want to play with this shade. I have this deep green shade called Burry. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but again, very gorgeous, like deep green. It's like an emerald green. So beautiful. And then lastly, I'm wearing the shade on this eye right now. It's called George. Just this really pretty matte brown. It's a really pretty matte brown. Super blendable. Really enjoyed swatching this one. Those are all 42 single shadows from the new Oden's Eye Jewel Shine collection. Now I went ahead and I did create an eye look using this collection. So I did start off with a shade called Jord. I started off with my outer corner and I kind of just packed it in before I lightly kind of blended it out throughout my entire crease shape. And then I ended up going in to the shade called Matthew. And I ended up taking the shade called Matthew and I ended up just tapping it along that shade called Gourd. And then right next to that, I did put in the shade called Angelica. Again, this is a gorgeous shade. I feel like it really just kind of complemented this eye look. Really love how it came together. And then I just threw on some black eyeliner and a black eyeliner with Jord underneath, and that's kind of all I did for this eye look. Very easy, very simplistic. I feel like with this particular palettes, you guys can create a multitude of looks, multitude of colors. There's so many different multi-chromes and shimmers that are in here that will change the look depending on what you place right next to it. I think it's a really gorgeous collection. So this collection will be launching on May 2nd. Like I said, there's gonna be various times you guys will see right here. Depending on where you are, will be depending on when it's launching. And as always, you guys can use code Allie D, which will save you guys 10% off this entire collection. So, whoo, I've never done a video like this before. Let me know, how did I do? How did I do? Give me some feedback. Like I said, I've never just done a swatch party before, but I've always wanted to try one. The back of my hand is super raw, and I had to wash this arm so many different times to swatch all the shades for you. But I really like swatching them. They're so fun because they allow me to see kind of like what I want to do an eye look with. And I will say these are really beautiful. You will not be disappointed when you play with these. I'm telling you, they are gorgeous, very soft formula, so just be a little bit careful, but definitely well worth it. So that, my beautiful friends, is it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed today's video, please make sure you guys give this video a cheeky thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you guys have not already, because I do post 3 to 4 videos every single week. Make sure you guys head over to my other channels, R for Life, where you guys get to see my cool, wonderful adventures, my amazing husband, Corey. And as always, the biggest thank you goes to these beautiful, wonderful Patreon members you guys see right here. Thank you guys so much for everything. And to my subscribers and viewers, thank you guys so much for being here. Whether you guys like this video, you guys thumbs down this video, you guys subscribed, you guys did not subscribe, either way, thank you guys so much for being here. I love and appreciate each and every single one of you. So with that said, guys, I love you, and I'll see you guys in my very next video.